For his 6th birthday, our youngest wants a walking stick shaped like this. Now to get this curvature, that needs to be a bent lamination, but it seems kind of a shame to make this out of laminations as well, so I want to make this solid and this bent lamination. And so I was experimenting with starting with solid and cutting slots into it and then bending it, but even if that's squished together, we still have these ugly sort of wedge-shaped gaps. So my thought is to make these wider cuts with a table saw and then put extra layers into the kerfs. So now with these kerfs cut out, I can fill these with pieces of the same thickness. And then I don't have these ugly gaps here, and the ends are staggered here so that I don't weaken the joint too much by having all the cutoffs in the same spot. And then steam that thing for half an hour. And now putting those in between layers back in and reheating it before I try to bend it. Now I just gotta let that dry like that. When I unclamped it after an hour, it sprung back quite a lot. Steam just isn't hot enough to take that bend permanently. So I want to make this quite a bit hotter, but I don't want to risk damaging the plastic on my clamps. And then I let that bake for an hour at about 300 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's set pretty good, and when you look at that bend here, I could have probably gone a lot tighter, and I will. Got a smaller radius bending form. And then I baked that again for an hour, but this time at 325 Fahrenheit. Ooh. So at 350, some parts of the wood are starting to get a bit discolored, so I don't want to go any hotter than that. Some parts are still okay though. Ow, ow, ow. So I got almost no spring back, so that was hot enough. Out of curiosity, I sanded the wood where it turned darkest, and it looks like that discoloration does penetrate quite a ways in, so that wood is good and roasted. Now I just got to separate the pieces for gluing, and look at how that retains the shape. And lots of clamps to make sure it bonds everywhere. Although I should make sure that the break isn't right where the bend starts, because that makes for a bit of a bump here. Well, this was only a test with scrap, but if only I'd used a longer piece, that could be the final one already. Now I'm just going to make it again, but longer. This time I'm going to go straight to baking in the oven, and because I won't have water to make it more pliable, I'm going to start with a rather large radius. Well, that fits just barely. Well, this is not working as well as my test is working. All the layers broke here, so it's start over. So with this ash, I've been gradually cranking up the pressure to bring it all the way around, and so far it hasn't cracked yet. And now in a tighter bending form, back in the oven. Well, disaster struck while in the oven. All busted. It seems this bending it with heat alone just doesn't work out, so I'll have to try steam bending again. And I kind of felt like I was losing my mind, so I just wanted to see how tight can I bend it with steam in one go. And leaving that sit overnight, it actually didn't have that much spring back. So my thought had been, if I bend it and bake it to set the bend, then I could just add some more bend to it, then bake it again, and I could just keep going like that. But the problem is, all that baking makes the wood rather brittle, whereas the boiled wood didn't get as hot, and that maintains a lot more flexibility. So the baking sets the bend good, but not a good idea for trying to continue bending after that. So I'm back to boiling it. First the individual strips, then sticking those together and boiling it some more. And because time is of the essence, I made myself a special bending contraption to quickly bend those strips around that tight curve. But fiddling around with it, one of my strips snapped out of the thing, so I decided it was getting too late and I needed another reheat and then bending it again. And then a clamp on it for good measure. So I just gave that a few hours and it sprung back quite a bit, and I'm not going to bake this one, I'm just going to rely on the nature of bent laminations for it to hold its shape. So I think those laminations are mostly touching now. And with the glue now dried, that bent lamination keeps its shape perfectly. That came out okay. Well, this wouldn't make a bad cane if it was a bit longer. As for our youngest, I think he just likes the idea of having a stick with a hook on the end of it.